I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is Black Sabbath. We haven't listened to Sabbath in quite some time.
I know. That's why I was pretty excited to see this request come through.
Yeah, this is Buried Alive by the band who is not bland, Black Sabbath.
Brought to you by the big homie.
Wasn't meh something?
No.
Muck meh.
Yeah.
For timely topical political commentary, if you want to see the debut of Dorian on Middle America, he's probably going to be a mainstay on that channel. You can check us out, Middle America with Vin and Sori. It's the most recent one with Dorian making his debut.
Comment section was clear. Ditch Sori, take on Dorian.
Ditch Sori, take on Dory. There you go. It's a campaign in shot.
Yep. Fuck you, Raul.
But it's Raul. I'm proud of the big homie.
Yeah, he really enjoyed it too.
I said love your neighbor.
Yeah.
And then he said vote for Trump. I was like, oh,
Did he know what he was supposed to say?
I don't know if he knew what he was supposed to say, but he said, I said love your neighbor. I looked at him and he goes, vote for Trump. What a disaster.
Okay.
My man Moen, he was like, there's no way he believes that shit. I'm like, he does, bro.
You have no idea.
He does. Hey, that's our Hey, we don't force our ideology on the kids.
No, we do not.
My son wants to, go ahead, be part of the board or whatever. Go for it. Okay. So here we go, Buried Alive, Black Sabbath. If you want your song review, dear listener, 125 at the gate gets you in front of everybody. You do that 3 times, you get down to $75 rate. He's at or...
Oh, yeah, he's at the 75.
Okay.
It puts you on the short list.
Yeah, VinandSoriMerch@gmail.com, or you can do that on Patreon, or my favorite thing to do is $1 the gate gets you in at Patreon, and then you join an alliance, and then alliances help determine what songs that we listen to. So there's a lot of ways. Okay.
You can do it through Patreon, or you can do it through PayPal. If you do it through PayPal, you get onto the short list faster.
Yeah, that's for the 125 one, but if you want to, the community aspect of it. All right, Buried Alive, Black Sabbath. Let's go.
Here we go.
$1. Holy moly.
Once upon a nightmare, once upon a time, you were running from temptation. You got lost and found it alone. To anybody, your
They have these comments underneath. This person, very good.
What do you know about it? Who are you to tell Tony Iommi very good?
Wendell, very good. That's it. No exclamation point. This is a very good song. I enjoyed it, and I don't know. It's been so long since we've been able to enjoy some Black Sabbath songs. Yeah, so I feel like I've missed the sound.
So that riff, like low and sludgy, sounded like a proto nu metal riff, which to me is just like if you listen to "Life Is Peachy" from Korn, that whole record, that's how all the riffs sounded, just like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like this guy Tony Iommi. It's like I'm listening to this thing about Krishna or whatever, and like. Basically, you ever see those Hindu gods or goddesses with like multiple arms and all that? Yeah. It's like that's Tony Iommi. Like the guy is
Some
like.
people are just great.
Here's sludge. Here's doom. Here's metal. Here's new metal. It's crazy to me that one guy
can do all that.
Can create so many different genres of music. Like, obviously, I know some fool's gonna say, actually, he didn't do that single-handedly, blah, 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 which, whatever. But, like, it's just crazy to me, like, the versatility of this guy. Like, this guy, when you talk about guitarists and stuff like that, it's like, obviously, it got an emotional connection to Head from Korn, got an emotional connection to Dimebag Darrell. But Iommi is just like, you can't, he's just somewhere else. Mm-hmm. He's like in a different universe. It's like talking about LeBron James and Jordan. Like those guys are just somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And then all the other, like Kevin Durant, these are great players, they're awesome. Like great guitar. They've been probably.
We don't want to take away from the rest of you.
Well, no, there's been hundreds and hundreds and thousands of excellent guitarists. But this guy is not even being better. It's like the guy is a god in the Genesis 1 sense as far as like creative ability. Yep. That's the thing about him. Yep. Like, you say somebody's a god, you'd be like, oh, Ingwe Malmsteen, like he's got complete control of the instrument, yada yada yada, which means he's got control of himself because whatever. And I get it. I really do. Mm-hmm. But Tony, the guy is just it boggles my mind. I heard a quote where somebody basically said all of metals is just people stealing Iommi's riffs or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's a nice little tribute to the guy. But I'm like, it's unbelievable to me. And again, the riff itself is not very complex, like but like his versatility is the thing that gets me, and it's like an entire genre was dominating metal for, I don't know, 5 to 7 years based on that kind of thingamajig. Like it's mind blowing to me. It's absolutely mind blowing to me. And then as a guitarist, I'm just like, it's so hard to come up with something that you haven't done before, or come up with some. Like there was one thing I did and I really liked the sequence, and then I because I had it recorded and I played it back, I'm like, that sounds exactly like this other thing. I was just like, phew. And but like this guy is able to do so many different things. It's just unbelievable to me. It's crazy to me. Anyway, shout out to the big homie. What did you think the song was about?
Well, it kind of seemed like it was about getting to be part of some sort of a religion, and that when you do, it kind of closes you off to everything else, and it buries you alive. And then he said, join the congregation, everybody get in line. Right here. When you thought you were free, you didn't need a reason, no reason to survive. But like, it kind of, when you all of a sudden feel like you're not free, like when he was having these thoughts about, where did it talk about, okay, right here. Okay, once upon a nightmare, once upon a time, you're running from temptation, you got lost, and you found that you don't belong to anybody. You're all the same, just another number. Cross it out whenever you don't behave. So, this probably, maybe he was singing about, maybe it has something to do with some relationship or something, I don't know, but for me it was like, I remember hitting a point where I was like, there's so many people on the face of this planet, and there has always been so many people on the face of the planet. And when people die, they don't cease to exist. They go on somewhere else. I'm like, how in the world does God even have time to even hear what I have to say? And then I started feeling like, wait a minute, I'm just like in a sea of faces, in a sea of people, and there's really anything special about me. I'm just here. And then I started feeling like, well, what is God doing with me here? So like, he's just like this giant, like, you know, like the ventriloquist, and you know, you're just like moving on, like, no, ventriloquist is like the same thing, the same idea you can use, like where it feels like, so I just started kind of feeling like I was drowning in those feelings and those thoughts.
This is when you were a teenager?
Teenager, yeah, because I had so many questions, and I think that you like start, you know, sometimes you hit a certain age where you just start questioning everything, and then you question whether the only reason you believe what you believe is because your parents believed it so much and they passed it to you. And well, what if I was born in a Muslim household, or what if I was born, you know, in a family of Satanists? You know, like what would that have changed about me, and what would I have believed? So it was kind of like that transition of deciding whether I was gonna believe the same things as my parents, or I was gonna move on to something else. But so that's what that reminded me of.
Was atheism ever an option to you?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, because I knew definitively that there was a God. Like, I knew that there was one power that was higher than any other power, and I did think like sometimes it's like, I think more than being an atheist, I would have leaned more toward like the type of Satanism that, like, Satan is a real character,
theistic Satan,
and you interact with him. Like, that to me would have been more atheism. No offense to my atheist friends, but it's just it just didn't make, because of the experiences I had in my life, I knew that was not true. Like, there's no way. Yeah. So I knew that there was a higher power. I thought maybe I could be mistaken as to what that higher power was. Like, I thought, you know, perhaps it's the character with the million of arms. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's another religion. Maybe it's Buddhism. Maybe it's, you know, Islam. Or maybe it's something else. Yeah. But I didn't think that if I went this, you know, the route of, like, Satan, like, I didn't think that would be, like, the right path to take, because I never felt like he was the higher power. I felt like he was the lesser of two powers. But sometimes it was just more like...
Did you have the Jesus and Satan arm wrestling match type of idea?
Not really. It's just, to me, this is gonna sound really crazy, but to me, like, God can't be manipulated. Like, there's nothing that I can do to make him change his mind, and I don't like that. But I feel like Satan can be sucked into something. You know what I mean?
Well, you have to be, yeah.
I feel like that would, like, when I would think about it, I felt like there were certain powers that you could get, but not that those powers wouldn't eventually take over you. Like, anybody that I ever met, it always seemed like that they felt this sort of, like, power, or the books that I was reading, it wasn't always people that I met, but like they felt this sort of power when they allowed, like, they were kind of like working with Satan, but it always turned bad. Like, it always turned fearful, and like the whatever things were around them, energies, always turned negative.
I was listening to this biography on Martin Lloyd-Jones. He was a famous pastor in England. Yeah. And he was talking about how this witch, you know, I don't know what denomination of witchery or whatever, but she was, you know, cavorting around with demons or whatnot. And then when she got into the church, like, she immediately, like, left all that stuff behind. The sermon wasn't even on witchcraft, nothing. And like, she was, like, fast tracked, like, she, you know, baptized and all that, like, she was like 100,000% in. And at some point, Lloyd Jones is like, what happened with you? Because and she said, when I walked into the church, I felt clean power. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations
I
where,
know.
like, the power of God was, like, obviously manifested in the room. It was, like, undeniable whether or not you were a believer. Because we were in a mixed group of people. Some people were believers, some people weren't. And people would be like, what's going on here? And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you can psycho someone, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I've also been in situations where, like, there have been dark intelligences that were clearly in the room. And people felt that power, too. And it's qualitatively different.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a fascinating phrase. It's clean power, but you know, like Dio's lyrics are kind of like avant-garde, kind of obtuse, like on purpose, I think. So it's like once upon a nightmare, once upon a time. So maybe the whole thing is just a bad dream. You know what I'm saying? You're running from temptation, you get lost and found that you don't belong to anybody, yada, yada, yada.
See, but it also... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It also could have been, like when I was reading it, the lyrics, it also kind of sounded like it could have been, like he was trying to avoid the temptation, you know, like sexual temptations that come with different types of relationships.
Well, yeah, that's where I was...
But, yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, that's where I was going to go, because it's like, that is one of the things that makes people susceptible to religious cults, is like this overemphasis on a sort of like monastic type lifestyle where you're trying to deny every pleasure of your body and all the rest of it, and then you cannot overcome that thing, because biblically you're not supposed to overcome all the desires that you have in your physical body. You're definitely not supposed to overcome your sexual drive. You're just supposed to channel it. The Bible never tells you to kill your sexual drive. You're supposed to channel it. Same thing with anger, same thing with everything else. But if a person doesn't have that understanding in a religious context, they immediately become susceptible to these kinds of like authoritarian cults. You know, it's one of the reasons that, you know, it's funny because I mentioned Dorian at the top of the video, but Dorian, you know, he's not a pacifist. Like, as soon as he can, he's gonna get himself a gun. You know, like he's doesn't really care much.
He's
about
our 14-year-old.
He's our 14-year-old. He doesn't care much about
15.
Medicare for, like, he doesn't like the guy is just, you know, he has his own ways of thinking, and we encourage that in this household. And you know, we had one kid when they were going through a very hard time. She's like, I hate God, blah blah blah. And you have to give people space to do that. Otherwise, you're creating this correlation of religion or a relationship with God, whatever you want to call it, with authoritarianism from the human side. And so they then go out and seek that type of environment and community, because if you do that long enough to a kid, when they go out into the real world, they become scared to death because they have too much freedom. They don't know what to do. So then they seek out these cults. So it's what it looks like to me, because, you know, it talks about join the congregation, and then it talks about someone get the doctor, he knows what to do, because this person's not behaving like according to the strict sort of, and then he's, you know, it's
especially
basically,
if you're from the metal community and you go into that sort of context.
and the doctor's basically a witch doctor, right? He throws some bones and mumble and the devil's inside you, like, you know, that's just the hocus pocus stuff that the witch doctor does. But it might be contagious, it might change the plan, get back in your tiny boxes, even if you can't. We say you can.
Yeah, the boxes as in, like, these are the guidelines, this is what you need to live by.
Yeah, I think
what we
that,
say.
Yeah, I think that that's what he's talking about. But the other side of that is like, that's how every society functions. Society functions and puts people in boxes. That's why, you know, cult is the prefix of culture. And I have a hard time sometimes differentiating between, like to me, a lot of the norms and expectations in America just makes it so that we're like one giant cult.
Yeah.
And you especially see it in the current political situation that we're in. Like, if you don't fit into a specific box politically, forget it. You need correcting. Something is wrong with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and people can't stand it, like, because you're not in a box, and so people can't stand it that you're not in a box, and they keep wanting to put you. You're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're all for Biden. Like, they want to put you in a box because you're not coming right out. And, So.
Yeah. So you could look at it like, you know, the country's one big cult, and then it says, when you thought you were free, you didn't need a reason to survive. It's a good line. Well, that seemed to stuck out to you. What happened with that for you?
Well, just that when it says you thought you were free, so he's basically saying you were never free, which goes to my original thing of like, okay, if God is the one that's controlling everything, you were never really free to begin with. But when you thought you were free, you didn't need a reason to survive. Like, you were just living and you were just whatever. But then when you start, and I felt that sort of constricting feeling when I started feeling like, okay, so God is just controlling this whole thing, and I didn't feel like that freedom, and I felt like different. Although nothing had changed from the day before till the day I started having those thoughts. You know what I mean? Like everything was exactly the same. But when all of a sudden I started feeling like I was being controlled and that I was just a number and that I wasn't really important, that really, really bothered me.
I bet.
And I had no one I could talk to about it. So it was just like an internal dialogue that I was having.
How'd you get out of that situation?
You know what? I don't really know. I think that I think that what I did was, like, I kept mulling over it a lot, and then I think I finally just said, I don't have the answer to this, and I can't figure out the answer to this, so I think I'm just going to kind of park this on the side and just trust in this higher power that I've always known. Because I knew it ever since I was born. Like, any conscious memory I have, God was a part of those memories.
Yeah.
And, like, there was some really... like, I have these memories of being like super, super young. One time I was in my room and I was terrified. I just felt like something was going to come into my room. I was really, really scared. And for some reason, I actually was always afraid of demons. I'm not sure. I don't know if I was really, I don't know if, you know, maybe something happened to me when I was little. But I didn't believe that any person would hurt me. So then I made it a demonic thing. I don't know, really. I don't know. But I was always afraid that a demon was going to come into my room, and anytime I heard something, I always felt like it was the demons, and I knew demons couldn't make noise. Like, a demon doesn't have to make noise. If somebody sneaks into your house, like, they have to try to be quiet.
Right.
But a demon wouldn't have to. Like, if it was a spirit, then it could just float over to my bed. So the fact that it was making noises, I felt like was something that was meant to terrify me. So sometimes, like, I would hear these noises, and I'm like, something's in my room, and, like, I remember praying one night, and I was crying in my bed, and I was just praying, and I asked God if he would just hold my hand. And I put my hand up into the air, and I must have been, I don't know, 5 maybe. And I promised God that I would never question him again the rest of my life if he would just hold my hand that one time. Which, I mean, I didn't stick to my end of the bargain, but I, like, literally felt like that God held my hand. Like, I felt like it's not like I felt a hand, like, hold on to my hand, but I felt like this peace just come into my room, and I wasn't scared anymore. And, so I was like, and then I remember singing because I just felt, I don't know, like, I felt so happy and I felt so safe. So, but I thought about that, like lots of different times. But anyway, I don't even remember why I was saying that story. But, I don't know. Anyway.
There you are. There you are, dear listener. Once upon a nightmare, once upon a time, you're running from tomorrow. You got lost and found that another day has turned to ashes, taken by the wind.
You're weird.
Frozen seeds of sorrow, never to begin. Join the celebration, and everybody's got to get in line, and we never justify. The choir sings a never-ending lie. Yeah, I mean, that's like the definition of authoritarianism. Is I don't have to justify anything. Just do what I say. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And unless somebody says, well, God's like that. Actually, no. Like, God explain the logic behind the laws, which is with Deuteronomy 7. Now, Israel, what does your Lord your God command you to do except for follow his decrees, commandments, and statutes for your own good, so that you may live long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. So there's a logic there, but there's no logic really with authoritarian cults. Mm-hmm. It's just like, here we go. There's this guy. It's scary stuff. Mm-hmm. It's very, very like scary stuff.
A nightmare.
Right. What'd you get the song?
I actually gave 9.2. I feel like everything is getting super high lately.
I mean, it's Sabbath. This is a 9.6 for me. Really, 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 really good song. The moral of the story is don't go to sleep. Be like me.
Like Vin, just don't sleep ever. Roam around the room.
There you are, dear listener.
Munching on things by his trying to sleep pregnant wife.
You got it rough.
Oh, here we go. All right.
Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.